Hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another episode of the Internetic Method podcast. My name is Nicola, and I'm a certified accent recognition coach. I'm the person and the face of the Internetic accent reduction coaching company. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about practical guide and tips and tricks for speaking clear English. Now, we already talked a little bit about accent modification and what is called accent reduction. As a specialized field that sits between language education and speech therapy. And as an accent coach, I work specifically on helping professionals develop clear pronunciation without losing their authentic voice. Now, something that a lot of people do not know is that the accent is not permanent. It really is a set of muscle memory patterns that can be modified with targeted practice. If you don't believe this to be true, then ask yourself, how do all these Hollywood actors and A-listers do that when they prepare for roles? You might not have known, but you guessed it, they have dialect coaches and they work with them extensively. There is a tiny bit of a difference between, famous Hollywood actors and actresses and most regular people. Number one, in the amount of resources that they have to invest into their, speech and speech therapy. That's number one. Number two, it is the amount of time that they have. So most actors have months, and months on end in between classes, movies is what I was going for. And so when you have months and months on end for just practicing, it really is much, much easier compared to somebody who works a corporate job, works 9 to 5, has family, and so on and so forth, a lot of responsibilities, and they're not delegating a lot of the things. So I really think that that's one of the biggest differences here. Now, in this guide, I would like to share, some techniques that have helped, my clients transform their speech clarity. Whether you have a foreign accent or a stronger regional accent, you want to learn why traditional classes often miss these crucial elements. So again, let's go ahead and dive straight into the solution that is going to help you. So first and foremost, I'm going to assume that we already understand why we have accents. So the accent develops when the muscle memory, pattern is formed when you learn your first language. Then when you start learning a second language, it doesn't matter if it's English or any other language, your brain naturally applied these familiar movements to the new language. Our brains are very efficient and they tend to do that. They tend to find shortcuts. Now, if you grew up in a specific region, those local speech patterns became your default way of forming sounds. And this is why, for example, both non-native English speakers and native English speakers from distinct regions such as American South or Appalachia, they develop very, very recognizable accents. These different languages and regional dialects, they emphasize these aspects of pronunciation and rhythm, which are crucial when learning a new accent. So by understanding how these different languages place stress on certain syllables and how different dialects elongate certain sounds, it really helps learners adjust their speaking patterns to sound more authentic in a desired language. So now, a lot of people think that, muscle memory connection isn't crucial, but it really is, because it shows us that accent modification isn't really about learning new information, but really retraining a physical habit that you have. And ultimately, this is good news because our brain is really good at developing new muscle memory patterns at any age. If you're wondering how that's possible, well, there's something called neuroplasticity. Our brains are amazing and, they can learn new information at any given time. Now, granted, you might struggle a bit more if you are 80 and neuroplasticity, drops compared to you being in your 20s and 30s and 40s. But there are, people who pick up piano and take up guitar lessons, and who try to learn, new language, in their 60s, and they succeed at that. And the reason why they do succeed at that is because, again, this neuroplasticity. So when we talk about how we can practice to lose our foreign accent, it really comes down to a few things. So number one, we need to first identify the specific sound challenges. Different language backgrounds create different pronunciation patterns. So, for example, Spanish speakers often struggle with the I sound, like in sit, and there is a distinction between B and V. Russian speakers may find TH sound as in think and the a bit challenging. Mandarin speakers, they frequently have difficulty with R and L sounds. And Hindi speakers might struggle with W and V distinction. So you really want to go ahead and identify these specific challenges. When you master correct pronunciations, it is effectively, you're working on effectively reducing your accent and enhancing clarity. So the first step is identifying the sounds. Then, once you identify the sounds, you want to master your mouth positions. Again, I talked about this extensively in my other blog posts, in my other podcast episodes, but once you know which sound need worked on, you want to focus on precise mouth positions that create V sounds in English. So you need to know where your tongue needs to be positioned. You need to know how open or closed your lips should be, and whether the sound is voiced, meaning it uses your vocal cords, or unvoiced. So learning and practicing these new sounds is pretty crucial to improving pronunciation. And you effectively want to replace your old speaking habits with new sounds, because this requires conscious effort and regular practice, at least in the beginning. Once you understand it, it pretty much stays with you. But, for example, many non-native speakers who struggle with TH, for example, they struggle with it because they've never had to place their tongue between their teeth before. It just isn't a movement that exists in their first language. So you mastering this one position, literally putting your tongue between the teeth and saying, it really does dramatically improve clarity. Finally, you want to go ahead and start to develop the music, the sense of music of English. So beyond individual sounds, the rhythm and melody of English significantly impact how native-like your speech sounds. So you want to think about which syllables to stress in polysyllabic words. You want to practice the natural rise and fall of English sentences, and even think about mastering the linking between words in natural speech, because we don't speak in isolation. And this is what a lot of these accent reduction apps get wrong. They teach us words in isolation, and we don't speak in isolation. We don't want to sound choppy. We want to sound flowy, the opposite of choppy. And so understanding word stress within sentences and its variations across languages is the thing that helps you sound more native-like. Now, improving these musical elements, it really creates more improvement in clarity than perfecting individual sounds. So think about if you've ever had the chance of asking somebody, hey, what do you want to eat? And they just look at you and tell you, you already know what they said based on the tone. They don't even have to say, I don't know, but it is, right? And so you immediately understand them. So that is how it works in general. Now, when we talk about, losing a regional dialect and regional dialects accent, let's say a student is from the Appalachian region, we have to understand that even though they come from the same region, no two speakers are the same. So even if you and a coworker both come from the same country or the same city or same location within the United States, the accents that you two have might completely be different. And this is actually pretty normal. We all bring our own life experiences, education, exposure to English into how we speak. And despite these differences, there is one thing that we all have in common, and this is what we've learned. So again, when we speak English, our brain pulls from the muscle habits built in our first language. And This is why certain pronunciation challenges tend to show up more among speakers of specific languages, even though they might not be identical. There will be certain amount of similarity. And if you really want to go deeper, you really might want to go ahead and think about the typical sound patterns and mistakes that, if you're a Spanish speaker, that Spanish speakers make. You want to maybe go ahead and check out some step-by-step strategies to fixing some of these. And you want to, look up potential exercise that you could use right away. Whatever, the case may be, you want to go ahead and have a great starting point to work on your sounds so that you can, affect your pronunciation in a positive manner. And again, please remember, the goal isn't to completely eliminate the regional speech patterns. It's to develop the ability to shift into something that's a bit more neutral that is needed for your specific situation. It might be professional, it might be work-related stuff, but you do want to think about some of the proven techniques. So now that we mentioned some of the proven techniques, I want to talk about one of my favorite ones, which is called the shadow technique. It is by far one of the most effective ways to lose your accent, and this is effectively how it works. So I always tell people to choose a short audio recording with neutral American pronunciation. So sometimes these news clips tend to work really, really well. The reason why they could go ahead and work really well is because you are, again, listening to a native speaker. And you want to go ahead and listen to the sentence while reading along. So you're both listening and reading. Then you want to go ahead and repeat the sentence immediately after hearing it, mimicking the exact rhythm and sounds. You want to go ahead and try and have a lot of fun with this. I remember I had a student who told me that very early on, he and his siblings would sit and watch comedy shows when they were very, very young, and they immigrated, into the U.S., and they didn't understand, but they heard that people were laughing, so they would laugh as well, and they would just try to repeat it. Gradually, you want to go ahead and try and decrease the gap until you're speaking almost simultaneously with a recording. So effectively, you're learning a piece of text, a piece of spoken audio recording, and just replicating it. And again, it really, really, really is important to listen and repeat a few sentences from native speakers to better grasp the nuance. You want to go ahead and try and have fun with the difference in emotions. Find somebody who's happy. Find somebody who's very, very angry. Find somebody who's really sad. And that really adds up. So this technique, the shadowing technique, trains both your ear and your speech muscles simultaneously. So it's not just one or the other, but it's both. And then another method that I really like is the mirror method. So again, this really refers to the visual feedback that helps people develop proper mouth positions. I don't know about you, but sometimes I really need to see what I'm doing, especially if I'm doing something for the first time in my life. And so if we're talking about accent reduction and positioning of your lips and jaw and everything else, having a mirror or just turning on your webcam or using your phone is really, really beneficial because you can see what in the world you're doing. And you want to then start practicing specific sounds that you find challenging. So previously we've given an example of a TH sound. So this is th, where we put our tongue in between the teeth. And it's one thing if you're just trying to wing it and trying to free ball it, if you will, without really seeing yourself. But once you see yourself and once you see, okay, my tongue is doing this or that, it really does add up and it really makes things easier. Then you want to observe the position of your lips, jaw, visible parts of the tongue, and finally compare the mouth positions with what you have seen. Maybe you have a demonstrative video of correct pronunciation. There are a ton of resources for free on YouTube where you can find how to say, for example, the sound th. And then you effectively want to actively practice in front of a mirror, because that's what's going to really, really help move the needle. This visual reinforcement really accelerates muscle memory development. And so between the mirror method and the shadowing technique, I personally prefer shadowing because I'm more of an auditory type guy. There are people who are more visual, and if you are, by all means, play around with a mirror, see how you can go ahead and make that happen. So far, that's it that I have for you today, as far as some practical tips and tricks on what you could do to improve your speaking clarity. Once again, my name is Nicola. I'm looking forward to speaking to you in another one. Take care. Have a great day.